coastal counties of southeast North Carolina and northeast South Carolina. Sandy is moving slowly northward away from the Bahamas. Areas affected. This local statement to provide.
Please listen to what your state and local officials are saying.
Get the hell off the beach in Asbury Park and get out.
Its intensity will continue for a long period of time.
There are thousands of people who are trapped inside their houses.
Kansas. I gotta get out of this, hang on.
These survivors, desperate for gas to power generators and their cars.
No more gas.
Hurricane Sandy has been the biggest Atlantic storm in history. Its force affected states as far west as Michigan, spanning an area larger than the state of Texas. Hurricane Sandy originated in the Caribbean as a tropical wave on October 19, 2012, 10 days prior to its attack on the east coast of the United States. 4 days later, it was upgraded to hurricane status when its winds reached 74 miles per hour.
Announced that they will start shutting down service. Subways starting at 7 tonight, buses at 9 tonight.
This morning I formally declared a state of emergency in anticipation of Hurricane Sandy. We should not underestimate the impact of this storm, and we should not assume the predictions will be wrong.
The superstorm hit Atlantic City, New Jersey at 8:00 p.m. on Monday, October 29th. Unprepared residents waited scared in their homes for rescue teams to arrive in boats through the streets. As water flowed over Manhattan seawalls further north, streets, subway stations, and electrical plants became immersed in water. Hurricane Sandy broke countless records in Atlantic storm history, including raising the water level in New York City to an all-time high, as well as being the second strongest Atlantic cyclone ever experienced in the United States.
We had generator going and about 7 gas cans full of gas ready to refill the generator and everything. So during the day it got really cold, and also at night it got really cold, but we were able to turn the lights on at night.
Discussions about my preparation. I was very ill prepared. I did not have enough battery backup. I did not have enough D batteries for my flashlights, and there was no way to generate heat other than a fireplace. So thank God I did have hot water, which is generated by gas and not electric. So I had no problem taking hot showers.
I'm in the position where I wasn't here or around the area when the storm was, but I was still getting text alerts on whether the school was closed or not, even though because I worked here last year. So every night about 9 o'clock or so I get another phone call from the Ridge Honeywell system saying Bernards Township schools are closed for the next 7 days.
Citizens along the East Coast heard about the storm and began collecting flashlights and batteries. But the United States government had to prepare for the storm in a different manner. While Governor Chris Christie and President Obama rapidly informed the people, the government was still lacking in preparation.
By and large, it's kind of something where you can never plan enough. You'll always be thrown a curveball, and sometimes you deal with it well, sometimes you could have dealt with it better, but I think everyone did the best they could.
As this storm moves farther north, it will expand. It's just really moving into a question of where.
Devastation at the Jersey Shore is unthinkable.
For the first time down the shore, when we went there, it was just major piles of sand and just homes knocked off their foundations, homes missing. Something that we've never seen, or I've never seen ever. Kind of like in our backyard, you've never seen anything like that. And homes in the bay, no boats out on the water. It was a silent, eerie feeling.
Old flood maps of the Jersey Shore, first created in the 1970s, were never updated. These incorrect flood maps did not accurately reflect the danger many homes were in, and in turn, many homeowners were paying lower flood insurance premiums that would never cover the cost of an actual hurricane. This huge oversight has made some families along the Jersey Shore make tough decisions in terms of fixing the damage done to their homes. FEMA has created new flood maps, and now many homes are required to elevate their houses off the ground or pay astronomical flood insurance premiums. FEMA will not subsidize these home elevations. And since insurance alone will not cover the price of both damages and home elevations, many families are looking at moving or even foreclosure.
I went about 1 week without power. It was obviously a little difficult because we're constantly, using resources. But I managed to survive, start a fire in the fireplace.
From what I understand and from what I saw, this town got hit a lot harder than most towns within the state itself.
I did not regain my power for 2 full weeks. So the night before I was to come back to work was the night that I got my power. So I was a little panicked that I'd have to adjust to coming back to work without access to hot water.
Oh, the biggest problem we had was the gas shortage. Because of Staten Island was hit so bad that a lot of the gas stations in that part of the island were wiped out. So because of it, there were gas lines right across the street from my house that were several hours long. People online, and as soon as the truck pulled up, people already online. The gas was out before the line ended.
You can still drive around town and see all the damage and all the woods, all the trees that went down, so this was one of the more difficult times to deal with.
If something looks like it's stupid to do, it is stupid. Staying on the Barrier Islands for 36 hours of hurricane force winds of 75 miles an hour or more, sustained, not gusting, is stupid.
New Jersey Governor Chris Christie has received much praise in his efforts with the storm. After the storm, his approval rating soared to 69%, and 61% of New Jersey, a Democratic state, thinks Christie, a Republican, deserves another term. All eyes were on Christie after the storm, and on November 17, 2012, Christie made a guest appearance on Saturday Night Live on the Weekend Update segment hosted by Seth Meyers.
Thank you. I just have to say, thank you for coming, Governor.
Oh, thanks for having me, Seth.
So, tell us, how is cleanup going?
Well, so far so good, Seth, but this isn't a job that's going to be done in a couple of days. Fortunately, New Jerseyans are known for their patience.
They are?
Yes, they are.
Oh.
How many times do I have to say it to you?
You only said it once.
One should be enough. Get the wax out of your ears.
I'm sorry.
Soon after the storm, Governor Christie and President Obama drafted a disaster declaration for New Jersey. And supplying 2,000 FEMA personnel, water generators, and ambulances, the state and federal government worked together to respond quickly and efficiently to the disaster.
I have to say the administration, the president himself, and FEMA Administrator Craig Fugate have been outstanding with us so far. We have a great partnership with them, and I want to thank the president personally for his personal attention to this.
Even in the midst of a presidential election, Chris Christie made it very clear that he was a New Jerseyan before he was a Republican.
Is there any possibility that Governor Romney may go to New Jersey to tour some of the damage with you?
I have no idea, nor am I the least bit concerned or interested.
Right.
I've got a job to do here in New Jersey that's much bigger than presidential politics, and I could care less about any of that stuff. I have a job to do. I've got 2.4 million people out of power. I've got devastation on the shore. I've got floods in the northern part of my state. If you think right now I give a damn about presidential politics, then you don't know me.
Overall, the federal government supplied $3 billion to the state of New Jersey. And even months after the storm, the so-called bromance between Republican Governor Chris Christie and Democratic President Barack Obama continued to blossom, with Chris Christie winning Barack Obama a stuffed bear at the newly opened Point Pleasant Beach Boardwalk.
Damn, boardwalks are opening all over New Jersey. I'm going to try to be at every one of them over the course of the next 5 or 6 days. We were in Lavallette earlier this week. Asbury Park officially reopened this past Saturday. I'll be in Point Pleasant and Seaside Heights. We'll be in Wildwood and Ocean City.
I think the federal government handled it fairly well in terms of responding as quickly as possible. From what I understand is that they actually had a little bit of a plan in place because they saw it coming, way off the radar. So we knew it was going to be bad coming into it, and they did get here fast. I did not like the idea that they stalled and that there were all these politics involved in voting on a bill to get more funding for disaster relief. But at the same time, it's probably important that you do have some sort of mechanism in place to make sure that the money is spent responsibly and accurately.
What I did recognize, though, and was very grateful for, is I went out on my bike every day to explore the damage in the roads, and I was very grateful that because of the federal response, I saw trucks from Missouri and South Carolina and even Texas repairing the lines in my town.
Of course, people are always complaining when they don't have power, but I think they did as best as they could, and I think they did a reasonable job.
Going off the complaining comment, my cousin is a lineman for JCP&L and was working over here during that 2-week stint. So he was pulling, 15 to 18-hour days trying to clean up trees and get lines back up and stuff.
You also have to make sure that the police and fire and EMS are up and running first and foremost before anything. And then you can worry about the schools. It did take 2 weeks, but I think that was mostly out of their hands. There's no clear way on how to restore power efficiently when you have hundreds of places within town where you have down power lines.
It's tough with the hurricane. It's one of those situations where there isn't exactly a great answer to fix it as quickly as possible. So, with the situation given and the damage that I heard was around here, 2 weeks was a pretty quick turnaround for them. So.
Especially considering down the shore, there was a lot of damage, and they're still working on that. And there's people that still don't have a home to go to. Yeah. Could be worse. Could be worse.
It was unprecedented, so anyone's response was understandable, whether they came up short of what people's expectations were.
There are a lot of mixed reviews as to how well the government handled the aftermath of the storm. It took 3 days for any aid to reach areas in Staten Island. Representative Michael Grimm questioned the priorities of the federal government.
And getting water out of the Battery Tunnel, we don't have bodies out of the water in homes. What the hell, have we all lost our mind? I just think there's a lack of priorities, and we're just not getting from City Hall what I think we should be getting. And I don't know where the disconnect is, but it's very frustrating. Got to get people on the ground. FEMA's just hitting today. We're frustrated because they should have been here already.
The mayor's decision to carry on with the New York Marathon also met criticism from the public.
It does use some resources, but it doesn't use resources that can really make a difference in recovery and that sort of thing. It's a different group of people. It's a relatively small amount of the sanitation department's resources to do it. And we have to have a city going forward.
Mayor Michael Bloomberg announced that despite the storm and many still waiting to be rescued and receive power, the race would go on as scheduled. The New York City Marathon has huge economic benefits for the city. The marathon brings in $36 million to the city, 47,000 runners, and 12,000 volunteers, and 2.5 million spectators throughout all 5 city boroughs. He explained that little resources would be used, but any resources Sandy victims could receive would be beneficial. The public grew angry over powered media tents for Sunday's New York City Marathon. Using 800 kilowatts, the tent took up enough energy to power 400 homes. Despite the power resources being privately rented by the New York Roadrunners Club, emergency executive orders have been issued. The Governor Cuomo, Mayor Bloomberg, or even President Obama could have taken the generators for more important use as long as they received confirmation from the City Council, state legislature, or Congress. However, these actions were not taken, and the government officials did nothing about the generators. More than a dozen flatbed trucks were pulled from cleaning up debris in Breezy Point and Queens and reassigned to transporting running barriers that will line the layout of the marathon. More than 100 cops were planned to leave cleaning up and help run the marathon.
Talking about, just to put in perspective, a marathon, which you're going to need cops, right, to work the marathon. We don't have cops to stop the looting going on in Midland Beach.
I do think the state and federal government did do a decent job in handling the storm, and considering the team and the crew that put Route 35 back together in essentially, I think it was a month's time. They worked 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and I think they did a great. They really did. I think they did a great job.
I think it was a fairly good local response, fairly quick. The next day they were out working. We had a response from the governor within hours of the storm really starting to subside. Updates, constant updates of what's going on, what to be aware of, when things are going, where you can get support if you need it, when the power might be on, everything like that, which I thought was great. Again, the whole funding, everything with Congress, fighting over where to get money from is always an issue. But I also thought it was very cool that Chris Christie, met with Obama right before the election and said, "Listen, I'm a New Jerseyan before I'm a Republican," which was very, very cool.
So I thought that Governor Christie was amazing in anticipation and in response to Superstorm Sandy. I thought he boldly gave executive orders to try to keep people safe. He boldly criticized people who were not following the orders, and he boldly asserted that they would endanger first responders and rescue teams. So I thought Christie handled it very well, and with the exception of Atlantic City, whose mayor handled it very poorly, I thought that all the communities did their very best to keep people safe. So that's my opinion on that. I thought New Jersey gets an A+.
Well, I definitely think it's the responsibility of every state, because it's easier, I think, to control something you can put your hands on.
Going forward, I think that we need to reevaluate who's protected and who pays. I personally believe in science, and science overwhelmingly predicts an increase in catastrophic storms. And I think that people who build homes on the beach should not have perpetual access to federal insurance, which is basically subsidized by the federal taxpayer. It's mostly wealthy people who have access to federal insurance so that if their houses are destroyed, the federal government pays them. I think that was in place and that needed to happen. They needed to collect. But I think going forward with the predictions that we're going to be very, very intense storms, that model needs to be reevaluated.
As long as the federal government is giving money, they should give money to every state according to its need. But I think it's the state's agenda to direct that money and how that money is spent, not the federal government.
I mean, I think the individual state has to be responsible for managing it, but whether or not they get it from the federal government to fund the state is a whole other thing.
I think that it is a federalism responsibility and that it should be a shared responsibility. That is my opinion. I personally like knowing that the federal government will step in and assist regions of our country when they're hit with disaster.
Though Hurricane Sandy devastated large parts of the East Coast, its residents continue to rebuild and give to one another. New York's Mayor Bloomberg addresses the city's impressive redemption.
Build again. The inspections of the crane on West 57th Street are complete. We plan to reopen public schools for classes on Monday. The MTA really did a phenomenal job of getting subway service partially restored in just a few days.
Most notable, however, is the sense of community that united the state of New Jersey post-Superstorm through organizations including Waves for Water, the Red Cross, and the Hurricane Sandy New Jersey Relief Fund.
Look around and you see all this destruction, that's fine, but you know what? All that stuff can be replaced. You look to your right and to your left, to your husband or wife, your son or your daughter, right? Those are the things that can't be replaced.
Forward is clean it out, hopefully get the insurance adjusters here and start rebuilding.
I like helping people. Yes, that's why I joined Red Cross. I volunteer for Red Cross because I like helping people.
With the Salvation Army, we meet every single need as best we can. So whatever resource someone is able to share with us, we then take that, turn it around, and see how we can best use it to help to have people one step closer to recovery.
For everybody who's put in just that little piece, thank you.
The altruism of New Jersey citizens toward their vulnerable neighbors during and after Hurricane Sandy proves that New Jersey is stronger than the storm.
No. I like unicorns.
Yeah, like rainstorms and long walks. It's unfortunate because that was kind of fun. It's like you're a sociopath.
Do you think I'm a sociopath?
No.
You ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. Well, this was brought to you by Stevie Scheibel and Mr. Mulai, and we're your psychology teachers, and we're glad to help.